giving you a step-by-step tutorial on how to do the rear disc brake conversion on a 91 Accord. You can do this on all models from 90 to 93s. As you can see here, this side already has the, or still has the the drum brake. So at the end, it's going to be looking like the one that I already did yesterday on the passenger side, which we'll go look at that right now. At the finished product when you're done. No, you can get these parts from the junkyard, or you can get them brand new, but I said, you know, whatever, I'm just gonna get my parts from the junkyard. Spent right around $200, I'll round it out to about $280 for all the fittings, everything you need, and I'll put a link in the description with them. We'll get into taking the drum brake off. Alright, so the first thing we're going to start off with is disassembling the drum brake so that we can get to the e-brake line that is hidden inside of the drum brake itself. So you're going to need two 13mm bolts that are going to be going in these two holes here. And on most of the CB7s, they're going to be a little rusty, and they're not going to want to thread in right away. They're going to be a little stiff at first. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to bump it just a hair to try to break the rust loose. Alright, so now that we bumped it a little bit, what we're going to go ahead and do is now the drum brake won't turn. It'll turn a little bit. But what you're going to want to do is try to do these the same exact amount, do them little at a time. That way this whole piece pops off and it's not slanted or crooked. Should gotta do a little bit more. Off like that. Now you can junk that or keep it or whatever you want to do with it. Now that we got the main piece off, we're gonna have to take the brake pads themselves off, and that's gonna require needle nose. And I don't know if you can see these clips because it's kind of dark, but these clips here, right where my finger is, there's a little tab. What you're going to want to do is twist those to the side. These brackets will pop off, and then there's a little wheel. I don't know if you can see that, it's kind of dark, but right where my in front of my finger, there's a little wheel that we're going to have to get to. And what that wheel is that's a tensioner. So that puts tension on this spring. So we have to loosen that to be able to pop that spring off so nut flies off and kill someone. Alright, so now that I got my needle nose, what I'm going to do is grab these little tabs here and twist them to the side, and these little brackets will pop right off. There's one on each side. You might have, these might twist, but twist them the opposite way and they should pop right off. Alright, and then like I said before, now we gotta, actually we'll do the bottom spring first, this baby spring down here. This is really easy to take off. You just bend this arm back. just like that. The spring will pop off. Now these should be free, and it'll be a little bit easier to work on once these are free. Let's go ahead and take this spring off here. This bracket will pop off. It should pop off. There we go. Now we're able to access this little wheel here. And you're going to want to turn it, let's see, turn it away from you. You could also do what I'm doing here and use I forgot what this is called. But you could use this as a way to put it up against that arm and kind of just rotate it. Alright, so after you got all the springs and stuff out and you got the tensioner loosened enough, I found a little easier way if you're not going to be reusing your drum brakes to get the brake shoes and your tensioner and the spring off all in one piece. You kind of just got to mess with it a little bit, and then once you get it to about here, you can actually have this piece up like that and just kick this piece off. Make sure the flat side is where the spring is, and this piece will just come right off. And that way you won't really have to worry about getting the spring off, because it is a pain in the ass. And now this allows you to get to your e-brake cable. So now what we're going to want to do is we can go ahead and release this. Get this out of the way. Turn it to the side. That'll release that. So now it's not under tension. Now this part's really easy to take off. All you got to do is make sure your e-brake is down when you do this, because it will put a lot of tension on the spring. And all you're going to do is just grab it with a pair of needle nose, and you're going to want to try to get it behind the crimp and kind of just pull it. Pull it down, and this piece will, the brake shoes and all that will come right off, and now you just have your e-brake line there. Now to get rid of your or to pull the e-brake line rather through the disc for the drum brake, there's these little clips. I don't know if you can see them. I'll try to. There's like a little kind of like a grade 8 looking clip, and they have, you have to press them in. There's 4 of them. You press all of those in, and then you should be able to pull that line out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I most likely will be needing some extra hands, so when we come back, it'll already be done. Alright, so there was the 3 12mm bolts holding the line under the car, and then there's 2 12mm bolts that are holding this bracket to the body of the car, the chassis itself. Now this nut is a tensioner for the e-brake. So what you're going to want to do is loosen this nut, and then loosen or take these bolts out of this bracket so you're able to slide these. and then this will allow you to get to your e-brake line and be able to pop that out just like that. And then once you take those 3 bolts out, this whole piece should slide out with the grommet. You might need to get rid of the heat shield where the exhaust is, because the bolts will be hidden behind the heat shield on the passenger side. But once you have all that done, yeah, it's a pain in the butt, but once you have all that done, then you can pretty much get your lines out, and it'll be a hell of a lot easier putting the grommets back in with the heat shields off. Okay, so now that you pulled your e-brake line through the chassis, now what we're going to go ahead and do is take these 4 bolts, or there's 4 nuts that are holding the drum brake assembly to the lower control arm beam, and they're 14 millimeters. There's one here. I don't know if you can see there's one here, there's one right behind it, and then there's one here, and then one right behind that as well. The nuts are on the back side. If you want to remove this brake line, you can. If you're doing the conversion, you won't be needing this brake line anymore. But it will, you know, if you get it out of the way, it'll be a little bit easier. And then there's this big nut down here. There's this big bolt here, which is a 17 millimeter, and it's also a 17 on the other side. So I would suggest you get a wrench on this side here, and then on the nut side, use an impact. So we'll do that right now, and then we'll be back. Okay, so I forgot to mention that to get to this back nut here on the control arm bracket, you're gonna have to take out the strut bolt, which is also a 17 millimeter. And once you get that out, you can prop this loose and be able to move it out of the way so you can get to the last 2 nuts on the outside of the control arm. Once you do that, then we can go ahead and take this big long bolt out, and then the last 2 that we need to do is to take these 2, which I believe are 14 millimeters, take those 2 out, and then take the brake lines off, and we should be on our way. Okay, so for your brake line, let's see if it'll focus. All right, so for your brake line, you're gonna want to use the wrench made for fuel lines, brake lines, because if you do use a 10 millimeter wrench, just a basic box end wrench, you will end up stripping this. You'll end up rounding out the nut, because the brake lines, they do tend to rust with all the debris and everything, and since these are brass fittings, obviously they'll rust a lot easier. So if you don't have this tool, I would definitely suggest you go to the nearest, AutoZone or whatever and get this, because it will help you out in the long run. What it does is just, if you don't know what it is, that little slit goes over the line itself, and then you just move it down over the nut itself, and then just break it loose with that. Once you have it loose, then you can go ahead and use a 10, but to break it loose, I would definitely suggest you use this, that way you don't round out the head. Alright, so after taking the last 2 bolts out up there, these 2 brackets here, let's see if I can, these 2 here, what you're going to need to do is, this one will most likely come out easy. You just kind of tug on it real quick back and it'll break that one loose. This one up here I kind of had trouble with, so you might need to take like a sledgehammer or something and tap it a little bit to break that one loose, and it'll still be hanging on to these brackets here, and then you should just be able to slide it out, and that whole piece should just drop down like so. Alright, so now that we got the drum brake out, the line is out, you should be ready to start putting in your rear disc brake. I'll go ahead and get this out of the way. Now on this model, there is no ABS module, and on the rear disc brakes there's a ABS switch. This orange thing here, it's a 2-prong. Now since mine doesn't have it, what I'm gonna go ahead and do, I've already done it on the passenger side, is I'm just gonna go ahead and delete it. So I think these are two 12mm bolts. You take these out, this module just comes out, and then you can just put the bolts back in there, or you can leave them out, but I put them back in there just so nothing gets in there, and then you can start putting your rear disc brake on. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete this now, and if you didn't know what I was talking about, there's the 2 bolts. I'm gonna go do that now, and then I'll be back. Okay, so as you can see here, I finally deleted the ABS wire. You don't really need it, but if you do have the ABS module in your trunk, I would highly suggest you use it, but that's all up to you. The other thing I wanted to mention, now that I think about it, is that on your lower control arms, there's these bushings. I don't know if you can see them. There's one there and one here. If these are damaged, you might want to get new ones. On the old car that I took it off of at the junkyard, these fell out, and they were banged all up pretty bad. On this one though, they stayed in there, so I'm just gonna go ahead and reuse them. The bushings look like they might need to be replaced, but I'm not too worried about it. Mounting it is to mount the brackets here. Get those mounted first, and put the nuts behind them. You don't have to worry about the brackets yet. Just put the nuts behind them, and then you can go ahead and move these on, and then get the long bolt on there first. You don't have to tighten that one either. I do all the tightening after I get everything mounted. Once you get this long bolt in, then you can go ahead and get the bolt on your strut, because you're going to need to press down on the disc brake to wiggle this knuckle onto the disc brake itself. Alright, so let me make sure you guys can see what I'm doing here. Alright, so what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna start mounting the disc brake on there. Like I said, I'm gonna start off with these 2 first, and then work my way in. That way it's mounted and I don't have to hold it up anymore. Alright, so now that it's on there, now as you can see, I don't really have to hold it. Alright, so the next thing we're gonna do is take these beams here. Remember these 2 beams here, this one here and this one here. We're gonna try to get it around. Let me see, where is that? The knuckle, I don't know if you can see where my finger is, but that knuckle right there. Once you got those knuckles on there, then you can take your bolt, your long bolt, and put it through. Might need to tap it with a hammer. Alright, once it's all the way through, you can go ahead and put your washer and your nut on there. Once you got that on there, then you can go ahead and start mounting the strut shoe, the bottom of the strut on there, onto this bracket here. Or you can do what I just did and hit it with a hammer. Alright, where was I? Alright, so your strut bar, or your strut shoe, mounting it onto the disc brake itself. Alright, now we need our impact. Impact that bolt tin. I left mine in the garage, so I'm gonna have to go grab that. Once you get that impacted in, then you can go ahead and start tightening down the all your bolts. This bracket here, I'll show you. This bracket goes on the bottom, so it's gonna go on like that, and it goes on. Let's see if goes on like that, and then you put your 17mm stop nuts on there, your locking nuts. Alright, I just had to give the strut a couple taps to get that nut on the inside on. Once you have that on, then you can thread those on until you can't really go any farther. Alright, so once you have those bottom nuts on, what you're going to want to do before you put the top nuts on up here, make sure you put your brake line bracket on there. It goes pretty much the same way that the other one goes, and then you can go ahead and throw your stop nuts on there. Alright, so once you have all your bolts tightened up, you got these four up here, or sorry, these two up here, and the other two down there. These two down here. You got the main one here. Oh, see it? This main one here. You got that all tightened down. Now we can go ahead and as long as you have your strut bolted in, we can start doing the upper control arm. Alright, so once you get the jack under your disc brake, it'll allow you to get to those two bolts very easy. At first, this piece, the bracket itself, it's going to be a little kicked out. So when you put the bolt in, and you put either your impact or whatever you're putting on there, make sure you lift up and drive the bolt hinge straight, because it will want to go in at an angle, and it will end up stripping. So just keep your eye on that. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is get the new brake line, the e-brake line, and start feeding it through the car, and I'll show you guys how to do that now. Alright, so now what you're going to want to do is this grommet has to go in here. As you can see, I've already done the other one. It is quite a pain to do the grommet, so what I suggest you do is once you get past this cable and you get to about that part there, go inside and pull the cable about a good foot inside the car, and that'll hopefully get the grommet in. If that doesn't work, you're going to need a flathead screwdriver to help you pry the edges into the body of the car. All right, once you got the grommet completely in, like I said, you want to pull the line at least a foot into the car. That way you have some room. Go ahead and just gently push the line back. Make sure that so that you don't push the grommet out. All right. You just want it enough to be able to get this line back in the bracket. There's a little slot on the bottom that the line just kind of like slides into, like that. And then these pieces here go into there like that. And then twist the cable and then push down and it'll lock itself in. Like I said, with one hand it's kind of difficult. All right, once you have that done, you can go ahead and pull that line back a little bit. Go ahead and put your two 12mm bolts back in there. Alright, so once you got that done, they should both look like that. Make sure the grommets are completely in and one side's not out. Make sure they're flush. Once you got that done, then we can go ahead, put those 3 bolts back. One there, one there, and then one on the control arm itself. That's the acorn nut. And then the brake line goes up and through this beam here. Damn son. It goes up through that beam there, like that. And then it attaches to the bracket there, which I'll show you once I have those 3 bolts in. Alright, so once you have the line all bolted up, make sure that the line is going up and over the control arm, the lower control arms, and make sure it's in front of your anti-roll bar. And then the bracket here, it's basically just going to sit on top like that. Okay, for this part, you're going to need a cotter pin. If the one that you got at the junkyard still has it and it's in fairly good shape, you can use it, but I suggest you get a new one, just for safety, because this is your e-brake. So if that cotter pin comes out and that this little dowel pin comes out, this little dowel pin here, you won't have any e-brake, especially on a manual car like this one. Well, any one rather. You kind of need your e-brake, so make sure you get a cotter pin of some sort. But I'm going to show you basically how to put this in. So this piece here, you're going to most likely have to release the e-brake, or else it won't reach. But once you release that, this piece will go there, over that, and then this dowel will go through both of them, and then you put your cotter pin through it. And that's how you do that. So when I come back, that'll be done. Once you got that piece done and locked in, as you can see there, I got the cotter pin in it. I don't know if you can see that clearly, but you want to round the cotter pin out on this side. There you go. Round the cotter pin out like that. That way, if this part breaks, This can't back itself out. And then once you're done with that, you have your little dust cover like that. Now this piece is going to fit on like that, and then there's a bolt down here, there's a bolt down there that attaches to the bracket itself right there, and then also a bolt that attaches right there. And it's just these two little baby bolts. All right, so this bracket here, when you get them from the junkyard, mine came with the bracket already on it, but I'm gonna go ahead and replace it with this one, even though the one on there looks like it's in better shape. I'm gonna go ahead and take this brake line piece off since it is broken. Make sure there's a crush washer on this and clean the threads and everything before putting it on there. This is your brake line, but like I was saying before, it fits in there like that. But make sure you have a crush washer on it so that it doesn't leak. These are two 12 millimeters, so I'm gonna go do that now. Once I have it installed, I'll be back. All right, so once you have that bracket on, now I am on the passenger side. The only reason is because I have this brake line, and I don't have one for the driver's side yet. But once you get this fitting on there, your brake line fitting, and you have the crush washer on, obviously you have your bracket there, your brake line goes there and wraps around, and then there should be a little clip. If you get it from the junkyard, if you get a new brake line, it won't have that on there, but it's just a little 12 millimeter bolt with an acorn nut on top holding that in to the brake line bracket itself, and then you have your brake line there, and then that's pretty much it. As long as you have all your bolts tightened down, make sure you go inside and press the brakes a bunch of times to get all the air out of the lines. That way they're not, you know, smushy. And then, you know, when you're done with that, you can go ahead and reinstall your heat shield and your exhaust. Then you're all set. So thank you guys for watching. Please rate, subscribe, and comment if you have any questions. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Peace.